Matre Namaha. Om Shri 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 Matre Namaha.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoటి Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om
Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Tushtirupena Samsthita. Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Tushtirupena Samsthita. Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Tushtirupena Samsthita. Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam or KYG. Thank you as always for being part of this divine family and for gracing all these occasions of learning together, singing together, and exploring these higher conscious states together. Today we are finally in the most sacred space of all spaces, if you will, in the innermost realm of our consciousness, in this journey of Sri Chakra. We are finally at the doorstep of the 9th Avarana. which we understand as the Bindu. And it is not a sheer coincidence that today is also the new moon or the no moon. In Sanskrit, tonight is the Amavasya, a very holy, a very sacred night, where the mind ceases to exist. The night is spent in deep contemplation, in meditation, with the idea of going within and seeking the existence of pure consciousness that lies beyond the mind. It is at times like these that I truly feel guided, because this journey of the Sri Chakra so far has not been programs from my opinion, from my perspective. It has been a sharing. And I'm sure all of you agree that this has been not simply an academic learning, but it has been a deep insight into our own divine nature. And when we do that with really no other intention, then the universe responds and orchestrates moments like these, that when you come to the Bindu, the mind ceases to exist. The entire cosmos tonight helps us in the study of this final Avarna. This, of course, by no means is coming to an end. The Devi Khadgamala, still we have ways to go. We have merely traversed, if you will, the Sri Chakra yantra, understanding the different petals, the different triangles, and the different avaranas or sheaths or gates or chakras. So these 9th chakra is where we are today. This is where we were in the last class. And we need to put this in perspective, that the concept of the triangle, the concept of Trinity, which means 3 angles, 3 different energies coming from 3 different angles together. The understanding of the Bindu is done from the perspective of these 3. Devoid of that, there is no I, and therefore there is no need to understand, there is no understanding, there is no speaking, there is no talking, and therefore nothing exists at that spot of the 9th Avarana. And therefore, when we meditate on the Avarana, when we approach the 9th Avarana, when we study the 9th Avarana, when we worship the 9th Avarana, as we will do in the Devi Khadgamala, we see it from the lenses of this Avarana, from the 8th Avarana. Because once you go into that experiential state, then you are the Bindu. Who will worship whom? Who will talk about whom? That is a state of the final dissolution of the self, where the river finally becomes the ocean. And so we need to understand it from the perspective of these 3 angles, these 3 Devis. These are the 3 energies that give us the darshan, in other words, the idea, the vision, and the knowledge of that final state. They will not give you the experience. That experience comes when that final door opens. But they, Kameshwari, Vajreshwari, Bhagamalini, together they give you the glimpse of what it looks like, what it feels like, what it is like. The word like is important there. And therefore, we study the Bindu, we approach the Bindu, we look at the Bindu through the lenses, through the screen that these 3 energies provide. This is what Baba would often say, that the final state of the Guru, the final state of realization, is beyond the gunas, beyond qualities, beyond essences. So beyond the gunas means beyond tamas, beyond rajas, beyond sattva. There is no I to create ideas or to imagine or anything, to entertain anything in the mental space. There is no I. And therefore there is no desire to act. Act on what? When the ideas don't exist. Because Bhagamalini keeps putting off the ideas. There is no ideas and therefore there is no need for action. And therefore Mahalakshmi becomes Maha Vajreshwari. The will becomes resolute in the focus on the Bindu, and Kameshwari begins to fulfill that ultimate mergence with Kameshwara. Kameshwari is about fulfillment, and therefore all of these merges into the tip of the triangle into Kameshwari. And Kameshwari merges with Kameshwara. There is no Sundar to experience this. Let us remember that again and again and again. Don't ask yourself, don't ask me, don't ask anyone. What do I get? Where will I go with this worship? What will I get out of this contemplation and the study of the Sri Chakra? What happens in the Bindu? Why can't I experience the Bindu? You will not be there to experience this. Kameshwari experiences it through you. This is the whole Leela of Lalita, if you will. Lalita means the one who plays this game. The one has become the many, and the many becomes the one. It is the game of consciousness. The Nataraja, the dance of Shiva, he is the dance, and we are all part of the dance. He dances, from the one he becomes the many, through the Shakti, through the Sri Chakra, the manifold creation. And then he draws all that unto himself. All we do is play that game and the role, and then finally realize that Sundar was never in existence at all. You can put your name there, I put my name. Because the more I understand this, the more easier it becomes in my meditation to allow the flow of energy and doors begin to open. But the moment I ask myself, when am I going to get this experience? When am I going to do it? Oh God, please guide me. Oh Devi, please guide me. It sounds poetic. It sounds very, it's like applying a balm to the pain, if you will. The ego loves it. The ego thrives on it. But guess what? 30 years later, we'll still be singing songs of yearning, which we think are devotion, but it's not. It is nurturing this false sense of I that somehow seems to be looking for enlightenment. This I dissolves. I often say this again. Siddhartha had to die for Buddha to be born. Jesus had to die for Christ to be born. The little Kanhaiya in the cowherd had to give up his gopikas and everything for Krishna to be born. The little Satya had to give up to become the Sai. The little I has to go for the bigger I to express itself. And therefore we are at this gate. Everything is seen from the perspective of the Trinity. And let us keep that in mind as we continue this study tonight. And thus we are, I keep that triangle on, which is of course the 8th Avarna, but I keep it on because it is from that, on the platform of that we get to see the Bindu. On its own, the Bindu exists, but there is no consciousness there. Only truth. Ekam Sat. One truth. But the Upanishads doesn't stop there. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Badanti. I'm able to see it as many. So who's the one who sees it? The consciousness. And therefore we need Sat, Chit and Ananda to give us this idea of the Bindu. And therefore it is that she appears in the center. This red dot is not the third eye, but it is that Kameshwari, the eye of Kameshwari, Vajreshwari, Bhagamalini and Kameshwari, that Kameshwari who gives you the glimpse of the Bindu that resides. Because in that Bindu, she merges, Kameshwari merges with Kameshwara. Consciousness merges into truth. And therefore the Ananda, the experience also goes along with that. And only truth remains. So the Bindu is the Shiva Linga. The Shiva Linga represents the merging of Shiva and Shakti. What you see is the Linga that arises from a pedestal. That arising of the pedestal is pure truth. That is Sat, that is the Purusha, that is the Shiva, that is the Narayana, that is the cosmic being. And then the pedestal that goes around the Linga with a spout that comes out represents the Shakti that encircles the Linga. She is the one that contains this. In other words, she is the one who experiences this, and therefore, together, they become the Bindu. The Bindu is where Shiva and Shakti become one. There is no more Shiva and Shakti. The Shiva Shakti Rupa Sri Lalitambika. The final energy is that where these two become one. The state of Kaivalya, as one learns in yoga, the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the state of Jivan Mukti, liberated while being alive, and all of that leads to this place. In this one, the one becomes the ocean, begins to live as the ocean. What is this called? Let's go back to the slides. Who is she and what is she called here? We will still refer to her as she, this energy, because that is how we are seeing it, through the lens of these three energies. Otherwise, you could call it the Bindu anything. But because we are seeing this Bindu now through the lens, through the eyes, through the grace, if you will, of Kameshwari, Bhagamalini, and Vajreshwari, three feminine energies open this door. The three energies that create this manifold universe opens this door, allows us to get an idea of the one that is beyond. And therefore, she is called Shri Shri Maha Bhattarika. Bhattarika. Bhattarika is the one enlightened, the one who is the source of all knowledge. There are Pandits, it's called Bhatta. Bhattarika is the one who is, everything emanates from her, all kinds of knowledge and all enlightenment. She is a source of everything. Scholars are called Bhattacharya, Bhattarika. So Bhattarika comes from that Sanskrit word which explains the very embodiment of enlightenment. That is the Bindu. Shri, Shri. Shri is auspiciousness, Shri is a mark of respect, and therefore here it is doubly given there because words fail. Even those authors who wrote this many thousands of years ago, who gave us this mantra, even they had to express the deep reverence for this state. Shri, Shri, Maha Bhattarika, Maha Bhattarika, not just Bhattarika, Maha Bhattarika. Maha means great. Maha means mighty. The mighty empress. The mighty one. The lesser we speak of the Bindu, the more she would reveal. The more we read, the more we speak, the more we try to understand the more she becomes veiled. Because we think in languages that are limited. We think with words that are limited. We think with a mind that is far, 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 far unqualified to go to the state which can only be experienced in pure consciousness, when the mind itself opens up to higher echelons. And therefore, let us leave this as it were. But at this moment of coming into the ninth Avarna, having the doors opened, and we being given a name, Shri Maha Bhattarika, from here, the sadhaka, the perception, goes back into what we understand as the Sri Chakra. But before we go there, this chakra, we had 9 gates, 9 avarnas. They're also called 9 chakras. Each of those 9 chakras has a deity that summarizes all those energies. And we'll come to that. We'll study that. It is from here we will trace our footsteps back out as we study those missing links of the Devi Khadgamala stotra. This 9th chakra is where we bow down and begin understanding the Chakra Swamini. Chakra Swamini. If you see the last line in the explanation, Chakra Swamini is the Chakra goddess. Swamini is the Lord, goddess, God. Swami is God, Swamini is goddess. So Chakra Swamini, the goddess of that chakra. What is the name? It is all, of course, that just one Shakti. But her function there is Sarva Anandamaya Chakra Swamini. This goddess who is guarding this chakra, her name is Maha Bhattarika. But the one that is guarding this chakra, the final chakra, is Sarvananda Maya. Sarva means all, superseding all of whatever you think is happiness. This is Sarva Ananda Maya, the source of all Ananda. Ananda itself has no really an English word. It's popularly called bliss. But I'll refrain from using the word bliss. We can use it occasionally just for colloquially, for just to give a reference or understanding, but Ananda is Ananda. So Sarvananda is all of the Anandas that you can ever imagine and experience. You put it together and she is that ultimate state of oneness is Sarvanandamaya. And that Chakra Swamini is the one guarding Sri Maha Bhattarika. Now we might say at this point, and of course these questions have always come up to me at many stages of this learning. Well, all of that is Sri Lalita. Then why not just worship Sri Lalita or the Shakti? And why go through all these things and why learn all this? Now, if we are saying that out of an enlightened awareness that everything is finally Lalita, then there is no need. But if you're saying that because it seems difficult to understand all these concepts, it's difficult to memorize them, difficult to understand these triangles and circles and all this yantra and all of that, and seems complicated, and you know what, if everything is just one, I'll just take the shortcut and go to one. If we are doing that out of a sense of laziness, then it won't work. Then we become philosophers, we become scholars, and we will justify as to why these things are not really required when everything is Brahman, when everything is God. Why go with all of this? We become scholars, Vedantists, philosophers. But in practice, in experience, we may not have got the beauty that when we take step by step, humble, to say, I am not even there yet, and keep learning with that humility, then doors begin to open. All of these are ultimately the one divine energy. You and I are that one divine energy. But we don't stop talking to each other, do we? I would still call my wife Maya. She would still call me Sunder, right? And so on. I would call all my friends by their name, even though in my heart I know that we are all extensions of one. And therefore, when we approach spirituality, we approach in the same manner. We call these Devis by their name, understand the different energies, all the time knowing that they are all facets of the one divine energy. But they play their functions. The sun has a function to play. He demands a particular respect, as opposed to the river in your backyard, who also has an energy and a role to play, who demand another form of respect. So does the grass that grows under your feet. So do the oak trees and the banyan trees. Each one is an energy of the same consciousness, but each one is approached differently, understood differently, all the time with the same awareness. That is the one consciousness that has become all of this. And therefore we bow down to the Sarvananda Maya Chakra Swamini for having opened that door and given us darshan of the Shri Maha Bhattarika. And then there is a Yogini for this chakra, as there are Yoginis and Swaminis for every of those 8 other chakras that we have already crossed. And I said, we learn that. That was not the time to learn. Right now, as we trace our way back from the Sri Chakra, from the Bindu, we will come across them. So in every chakra, there is a Swamini, the goddess, and then there is a Yogini. The Yogini, as the last line, if you see in the slide, what is or who is a yogi or yogini? Yogini is the embodiment of that wisdom. In yoga is all about experience, because yoga means oneness. So yogini embodies that experience. A yogini guards that experience. In other words, helps you protect that experience, maintain the sanctity of that experience. And the yogini is the one who also grants that experience. So there is an energy that helps you experience something, protect that experience, and grant you further experiences. So in this 9th chakra, there is a yogini. What is her name? Parapara Rahasya Yogini. She is the yogini who has the secrets. She embodies the secrets. She guards those secrets. She is the one who will grant us the doorway into that secret. Parapara Rahasya Yogini. Para and Apara. Para and Apara. Para means here, and Apara, Para is hereafter, and Apara is the one that we can all understand, that which is not in the hereafter, that which is here. Here and hereafter. All knowledges, all wisdom, all abundance, everything of the here and the hereafter. Para, Apara. Para, Para, Rahasya. All those secrets, this yogini guards in this entrance. She is the one who gives us that final experience. She is the one who opens a door so that Kameshwari becomes one with Kameshwara. So Parapara Rahasya Yogini. And then from here, we understand the secret of the Tripura. Here we are finally in the Sri Chakra, in its entirety. On this holy new moon night, we get a glimpse of the whole Sri Chakra. I think it was in November 9th or 9th, 2021, I think. I'm not sure, but that's when we began this journey. And it is here today that we have traversed that journey step by step, being guided at every stage And we are finally here, looking at the entirety, the complexity of this yantra. In other words, the whole of creation. From where are we looking at it now? We are looking at it from the very center. We are looking at it from the Bindu, through the city of the Tripura, those three, Vajreshwari, Bhagamalini, and Kameshwari. It was November 9, 2020, Maya says. It's been a journey, and the journey is not ended. This took me decades to understand and learn. And I'm never be in a rush to teach it. If it takes me weeks for understanding how do I explain, I would take weeks to explain it. Because for me, it is as much a spiritual journey at this moment as it is for many of you. This is not a lecture, this is a satsang, where we are invoking the divine in our midst. There is a Shakti present at this moment as I speak to you, in my heart, in my words, in your heart, in your words. That energy binds us together. We see the entire creation through the lenses of the Tripura. And that is explained in this sloka, because from there, after you come to the Bindu, what happens? We see this from that, the three, the Sattva, the Rajas, and the Tamas. We see it from there. And then what is it that we realize? We realize the following. So from the Bindu, we see the outermost chakra. And we learn this in the ritual, because when you come to the Bindu, there is a chant, which we will come across now. You meditate on the outermost chakra, where we began this. The outermost chakra, and we say Tripure. Oh, you are the one who embodies that outermost chakra. Tripure. Tripure she is the one who embodies it. She is the one who's become all these three cities. She is the Rajas, she is the Tamo, she is the Sattva. And through those, the energies of creativity, energies of action, and energies of fulfillment, the whole of creation and all of that happens. So this is Tripure. Then we look at the second one. And here we say Tripureshi. We bow to Tripureshi. Tripura, three means three, Pura means city. So it is all, that is why the immediately after Sri Maha Bhattarika, Sri Maha Bhattarika, we salute the Swamini, we salute the Yogini, and then we salute all this Tripura, Tripureshi, Tripuramba, and so on. We go on, as you will see now, because we are now looking at life from that perspective, the enlightened perspective. We are not become the Bindu. The darshan of the Bindu changes the perception of creation. The way we perceive ourselves, the way we perceive everybody else, the way we perceive will change. But for that, one has to approach that three. And that approaching that final, the 8th Avarna and entering the 9th Avarna is not simply a ritual on the plate that you would do on a Friday night or on an Ashtami night or on a new moon night like this. You would not just do that, but it is a lifestyle. It is a whole sadhana. It is the actual spiritual progress. And once you go there, you begin to see and understand, oh gosh, this is the Tripureshi. And then comes the next one, the third chakra. Tripura Sundari. She is the one who creates beauty all around. She is also beautiful and she creates beauty all around. Tripura Sundari. She is the Sundari that brings beauty in all the three cities. In other words, because of those three, the entire creation, right? So it's multifold creation in all the dimensions. All of that beauty is brought about by her. Now you might say it is just three, right? How come three becomes multi-dimensional and multifold creations and millions of universes and so on? In Rajas, there are many infinite levels of Rajas. In Sattva, in creativity, there are infinite levels of creativity. And in Tamas, in fulfillment, there are infinite levels of fulfillment. And so imagine the combinations, permutation combinations that can be made available, not only in qualities in us, in the colors that we see, in the experiences of the senses, but in other dimensions. All of these exist within that Tripura. Tripura Rahasya. Many dimensions of reality open. It's a kaleidoscope of beauty and beauty and beauty and beauty and revelations of different levels of consciousness. This is for real. It's not philosophy. It gets more and more beautiful. If you think the landscapes with your eyes can see are beautiful, there is much more beauty with your eyes closed. Anyway, then comes the fourth chakra. Why does she give beauty? Because of Tripura Vasini. Then you realize she is the one who resides everywhere. She is the one. So from that Bindu comes all this awareness. Tripura Vasini. And then the fifth triangle. Tripureshrihi. Tripureshri. Tripura is 3 cities. Shrihi. Shrihi is auspiciousness. Your eyes will only see divine actions and divine play. There will be no evil in your perspective because everything you will accept it as the play of the divine. When that door opens, then you cannot hate somebody. You cannot dislike someone. The perceptions change because the underlying awareness comes Tripureshrihi. Everything is auspicious. Birth is auspicious. That's not difficult to follow. Death is auspicious. That may be difficult. Untimely death is also auspicious. Sickness is auspicious. Illness is auspicious. As is winning a lottery or getting a new car or a home. Or there is only auspiciousness. Shri, Shri, Shri. Tripureshri. That is what we will all begin to understand from that Bindu. Everything was, is, and forever will be permeated by the divine. But that has to come in your consciousness as that awareness. Like we started this in the last class saying, what is knowing, what is awareness, what is experience? But at least knowing is one thing. You and I are knowing things now perhaps. We read a book, we get to know something. Then comes an awareness. Aha, moments come. And then comes the actual experience. And then comes the 6th chakra from the 9th. You're looking at all this from the 9th chakra. So from the 9th, through the eyes of Tripura 3, who has shown you Bindu, now they're saying, look out now. After having seen the Bindu, only seen, not become one with the Bindu. Let us not get confused there. Seeing the Bindu, you realize so much of you exists in that presence. And then you look at all the, so from the 6th, you look at, from the 9th chakra, you look at the 6th chakra, the 6th Avarna, and you say, Tripura Malini, you're the one. Everything, then you realize, everything is this energy. Tripura Malini. The same consciousness adorns all the 3 cities. Malini is like a garland. It surrounds, encircles, it's everywhere. There's nothing outside of Tripura. Everything is within Tripura, the 3 cities. 3 cities brought into an existence, into a dimension. In every dimension, it's a dimension of Tripura. So in this dimension, we say this is also Tripura. And then comes the 7th chakra from the 9th. Here again, it is Tripura. Tripura Siddhe. Every manifestation is your manifestation. You are the one who manifests everything in these Tripura. So Tripura Siddhe. The manifestation energy. And then comes the 8th, the 3 Devis that we recently studied in the last class. There we realize This, because from there you're seeing the Bindu, correct? There you realize this Bindu is the mother of the universe, mother of the Tripura, Tripurambe, Tripuramba, Tripurambe, Tripuramba, Amba means mother, Amma, Ma, right? In India we say all these names. Mother also has Ma. So Amba means the mother. In other words, the one that gives birth to all of this. One way we can relate, our minds can relate easily, is one who gives birth is mother. And therefore we approach this as the mother. Tripuramba. And then we look at the Bindu. From the Bindu, the ninth Avarna, we say, Maha Tripura Sundari. Maha Tripura Sundari. The most beautiful, because there is no other way to describe the glory of that experience. And thus you see here how from that Bindu, all our perception changes completely. And everything we see then, therefore, is Tripuramba, Tripureshi, Tripura Shri. Let me go back, sorry. I just kept clicking. This is what we see from the Bindu. Tripure, Tripureshi, almightiness. Tripura Sundari, she beautifies everything by her presence. So Tripura Sundari is third, and then there is a Maha Tripura Sundari as the ninth. So it is not like we ran out of words and therefore we are repeating. There she brings the beauty, here she is beauty personified. Now, a concept one has to understand here. If I take a spoon of sugar, just bear with me for this analogy. Only for this analogy, I'm going to use a spoonful of sugar. Otherwise, sugar is not one of my the best examples. If I take a spoonful of sugar and a glass of water, and I put it in and mix that sugar into the water, I will have sweet water. Every part of that water, if the sugar is well mixed, let's assume that, every part of that water is going to taste sweet. There is nothing but sweetness, and therefore we'll say the water is sweet. We're not going to say sweetness has mixed with the water, sweetness has mixed in the water. We're going to say the water is sweet. It changes the quality of the water itself. So that is the beautification we are talking about in the third Tripura. We see beauty all around. Tripura Sundari is all I can see. I can only see beauty all around. What is Maha Tripura Sundari? This is where the analogy is incomplete. There is really no analogy to explain, and I'll tell you why. So let's imagine an impossible situation. I have a spoonful of sugar. I have a glass of water. I take this spoonful of sugar and mix it fully in the water. The spoon has gone into the water. I mix it and I remove the spoon, and the spoon is still full of that sugar, and the water has also completely dissolved that sugar. The sugar has mixed into the water completely, not some of it, all of it, and yet the sugar is untouched in the spoon. That is the beauty of this energy. She becomes all of this, and yet she is aloof from this. The Bindu principle is that. The Bindu becomes all of this. Shiva and Shakti through his dance. When Shiva dances means what? The dance is Shakti. That is Sri Chakra. In that dance, he becomes all of this. And yet he is also Shiva. So is he meditating or is he dancing? He is both. Is he Shiva or is he the Shakti? He is both. The sugar is in the spoon. The sugar is also mixed in the water. So there is really no analogy that we can take from our sensual experiences. Because when we say God has become all of this, we might assume, based on what we can see around, is if the sugar becomes, water becomes sweet, there must have been some sugar that has now dissolved into the water, and therefore there is no sugar left on the spoon. But in divinity, it's different. The sugar goes into the water, becomes the water becomes sweet. Every atom of that water is suffused with the sweetness of the sugar, and the sugar is still untouched on the spoon. So she is the Bindu, she is also all of these energies. So this water being sweet is the Tripura Sundari of the third stage. Maha Tripura Sundari is the one that is eternally and always beautiful. The most beautiful. There is no comparison here. So this is that divinity that is untouched. Maha Tripura Sundari. Because now she is shining with the radiance of sitting on the lap of Shiva. So that is the beauty of this perception that one is gifted when you complete this journey. And from that ninth chamber, if you will, not the 36th chamber of Shaolin, if some of you have seen that movie, but ninth chamber of the Sri Chakra, you are gifted and you see everything is auspicious. Everything, she is omnipresent everywhere. She adorns everything. She is the one who manifests everywhere. Sarva Siddhe. She is the source of all this creation, and she is the most beautiful. And thus you look everywhere and she fills. This is the secret of that 3 cities. Therefore, in this class today, this stage here is more for deep meditation and contemplation. And once you get this kind of perspective, what follows in this Khadgamala Stotra, because it's a beautiful journey. The journey of that worship, the way we proceed from one to the other, is a deep meditative, contemplative journey. You can't finish it in 10 minutes and 15 minutes. It just doesn't work that way. At least for me. So let me take that back. It's a beautiful journey. And so when you reach here, when you see everything, the Tripura and all the chakras are all finally her only, you realize it is all Tripura, Tripura. Then you begin to offer what is called the prostrations. Then you offer your prostrations. Again, 9 of them. For each of those perspectives that is given for the 9 chakras, you offer a prostration to this divine source from which comes forth the entire creation. We can connect to this source, Bindu, if you will, emotionally. Why not? We can connect to it intellectually. Why not? We can connect to it through deep meditation and contemplation. Of course you can. And you can connect it through the sound energy, through mantras, through chanting. You can connect to this through prayers and rituals and worship. Because all of that is her. And you can pick and choose any one of them at any time and enjoy this journey towards your own divine self. Shri Maha Bhattarika. And therefore, when that perception comes and you see everything is Tripura, then you start offering your salutations and you say, Maha Maheshwari, Maha Ishwari. Now again, Maha. It's not normally just Maha. Your heart is overwhelmed there at that spot, at that moment. And you say, you are the Ishwari, the goddess, the ultimate goddess, the empress, but you are just not ordinary. You are the mighty, and therefore I just put most powerful. I just ran out of words. Most powerful goddess. Maha Ishwari becomes Maha Maheshwari. And then Maha Ragni. These are all poetic ways of expressing how great, who this energy is. Maha Ragni. Ragni is Rani, the empress, the most powerful empress. Maha Ragni. And then you offer your salutations to Maha Shakti. Power beyond all powers. The power of all powers. The energy beyond all energies. Maha Shakti. Maha Gupte. The secret of all secrets. How you see how much it took time for us to go to the Bindu. And understanding, I mean, not just time, but the understanding that's required to get to the Bindu. She's hidden behind so many layers of beautiful energies who otherwise tempt you and keep you occupied. Like our senses, they're all divine energies, but they keep us occupied. Maha Gupte, she's the most powerful secret. Maha Gnapte. Gnapte is knowledge, Jnana. So Maha, she's knowledge of all knowledges. If you know that, everything else is known. Baba would often ask us, what is that one thing by which everything else is known? How did the sages know the secrets of the universe? How did they figure out how many planets, what are stars, cycles of the moon and the sun and the diameter of the planets, all that was documented thousands of years ago? How did they know that? What was it that they knew that gave them access to all of this? While we were scratching our heads, he came up with what seemed to be a simple answer, but what would be in reality is many lifetimes of achievement. And that is, he said, they knew the self. They knew the Atma, the self. And that Atma opened the door to Paramatma. And then came both Paravidya and Aparavidya. All of that became open. And so she is Maha Gnapte. She holds the knowledge. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all of these shall be added unto you, said Jesus. This is what he meant. We need to first seek that, which is the source of all of this. And everything else will automatically be added. Maha Gnapte. Then comes Maha Anande. Maha Anande. It's not Maha Nande. I've just broken it for your pronunciation for those of you who are new to Sanskrit. But Maha Anande. Maha Ananda. Maha and Ananda, because there's Maha Ananda, it becomes Maha Anande. Maha Anande is Ananda of Anandas, not just normal Ananda. Maha Anande. Maha Spande. The vibration behind all vibrations, the one that begins this idea of creation, the one vibration. It's a vibration, it's a spanda. Spanditumapi, as Adi Shankara would say in Saundarya Lahari. In the very first sloka, he says, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktaha Prabhavitum Nache Devam Devo Na Kalukushalaha Spanditumapi. Without that tiny vibration, nothing happens. Without that Shakti coming into Shiva, nothing will happen. So even Hari, Hara and Brahma cannot worship this unknowable energy. The vibration of all vibrations. Maha Spande. Now, in some traditions, because these are passed through thousands of years, don't expect one book which will say this is the most authentic, others are not authentic, and so on. So we will deal with different schools that have used different words, and in this particular one, there is also one, instead of Spande, there is a Skande, Maha Skande, the one who supports the whole universe. That is also accepted. That is also an acceptable practice. But I have always learned it as Spande, and therefore I'm sharing this. So I will use it Maha Spande. In your book, in your text, in your school, with your teacher, if he teaches you Maha Skande, that is not wrong. Okay, and there are certain schools that add few more. So these are all different schools, traditions, and practices. But we will go by what is given to us as a standard set of 182, which represents the 6 months in the year. And when we repeat it twice, we are completing a whole year. So that is how we study this one every day, and therefore we take 6 months to complete this journey in our own sadhana. Anyway, we'll come to that. We'll study it and we'll discuss all of that. But here is Maha Spande. Then comes Maha Shaye. Maha Mahashaye is the goal of all goals. Once you reach that ninth Avarna, that's it. There is nothing more to achieve, nowhere else to go. That is the beauty. Maha Mahashaye. And then finally, at the Bindu, you offer your pranams, salutations, and you say Maha Maha Sri Chakra Nagara Samragni. Maha Maha Sri Chakra Nagara, this city of Sri Chakra, this yantra is also called a city. This body is a city. Kshetra, Nagara, Pura, Tripura. Pura means city, Nagara means city, Kshetra means field or city. So this body, this universe, all of these are expressions of the Sri Chakra. And in this Mahanagari, Sri Chakra Nagara, she is there, Samragni. She is that mighty empress. She is the one who runs the show. If this understanding becomes an awareness, if that awareness gives even a tiny bit of an experience of divinity, my dear brothers and sisters, life becomes so enriched. It becomes so beautiful because you begin to understand there is so much more than the little things that we are seeking. You begin to understand the orchestration and you look at life from the ninth Avarana, like we just did. Then you begin to accept every moment of your life, every stage in your life, every person in your life, every event in your life as one being orchestrated for your own higher learning. Then you will not blame someone else because that person you're blaming will also be her. Nothing is outside the Tripura, and all of the Tripura is inundated with who? Sri Chakra Nagara Maha Samragni. This empress, she is the one who's running the show. She is the one who's guiding the show. She is the one who's orchestrating this dance of Shiva. Shiva is dancing that dance. The energy of the dance is her. And therefore there is nothing outside of her. And therefore, to this most divine energy, we finally say Namaste, Namaste, Namaste Namaha, Namaste, Namaste, Namaste. Unending salutations. That is all we can do in humility and having that joy of being in the presence of this mighty energy. Let us end this satsang chanting the divine name.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. 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 समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु.
May all the beings in all the worlds be happy.
जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय. नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव. शांति शांति शांति.